What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Pure Evil MMA. I'm your host, as always, Evil Eddie here from MyMMAnews.com. Coming back after a crazy weekend that was with Justin Gaethje going in there against James Vick. It was a very exciting weekend. We had that bare knuckle boxing fighting championship 2 go down, where we even saw a couple of fights that we wanted to see and had fighters on not go through. We're going to have the full story with that by the end of tonight. We're going to probably have Mercy or Christine Ferea joining us tonight. And then later on today at 8 p.m., we're going to be joined by Justin Sumter to come in here and talk about what happened on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series and jumping back into having a UFC shot. But until then, we have a very special guest joining us right now. We got Craig Allen from Fight Night Picks joining us here. And, first off, before I even introduce you here or even say hi or anything, man, all of my listeners have been seeing me rock your merch lately. So I was actually really impressed. Like, after I went on your show, like, you sent me that little package, came with stickers. Like, you had the full setup, man. That looked really professional. And I've been repping it here. So it's finally an honor to have you joining us here on Pure Evil MMA.
Thanks, man. I'm really glad that you like it. I had a little deal there set up. I was at Fighting Alliance 7 in St. John this weekend, so fans could come out, rock some of the merch, and we had a few takers, so hopefully we see some more of those Fight Night pictures out there.
So, man, this weekend there was a lot of crazy events going on. I mean, even like with the internet world with Logan Paul versus KSI, that whole nonsense going to a draw. I mean, I'm not even going to waste time talking about that, but at the same time, like, I am a little happy that went through. Before we jump into the Justin Gaethje's fight, I'm a little happy that went through because if you look at the population of kids that are interested in it, like the YouTube generation of children out there right now, for the ages of 8 and 14, that aren't into mixed martial arts, but they might play the UFC video game, this is going to help them be interested to actually see some real fights, some real talent, and we all start somewhere. For me, it was WWF. We all start somewhere. It's a new generation,
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a win-win situation. I mean, as much as people might want to bellyache on Twitter that it dilutes the sport or it dilutes boxing. I mean, you saw them in the ring. They wear headgear, and it ended in a draw. So if there was any big money out there, gambling-wise, the bookies made a lot of money. But I mean, as far as the fight goes, you're right. I mean, as far as teenage kids, younger kids watching it at home, there's just going to be a trick where it ends up in more kids in taking boxing, taking wrestling, jiu-jitsu, what have you. I mean, that's perfect. It just feeds up into that MMA base, and I'm sure we'll see the effects, in the coming years.
Which is actually, one of the reasons why they brought Brock Lesnar over. Like, even though that's a horse a different color, it's about getting people interested in the sport to actually see the real talent, which is why I even don't mind when they bring over CM Punk and stuff like that. As cringy as it could be, in the long run, there is a bright side to all of the frustration that the hardcore fans really get. But outside of that picture, let's talk about some of the biggest action that went down this weekend between Justin Gaethje and James Vick. I mean, I had the honor of interviewing Justin Gaethje probably about 3 years ago when he was in the World Series of Fighting. Not many people knew who he was. They didn't know who Marlon Moraes was. World Series of Fighting had so many big names over there. We wanted to see what would happen if they crossed into the UFC. And we've seen David Branch, kind of a little struggle. But Justin Gaethje, man, he's been fighting some of the top talented guys, especially that first one that he had over against Michael Johnson, man. I was just like, holy shit. But every fight that he has is very close. This fight this weekend, I was like, he should not have that big of an issue with James Vick after facing, Eddie Alvarez and the wars that he's had. I mean, were you kind of surprised at the way this fight went? How did you see it going?
I mean, I had written a piece of, start of the week for the website, and I basically come out and said, Justin Gaethje, where's this spot in the division? I mean, what are we going to see from Justin Gaethje? Because like you said, I mean, he's had wars since he's joined. 104 strikes against Johnson, 122 against Alvarez, 115, and then he had received almost 2 more shots than he had given per minute in every fight. So I was kind of wondering, what could happen in this fight. I basically kind of said, Gaethje 1-2, coming off 2 knockout losses, losses against James Vick. What do you do with Justin Gaethje? And he still has a phenomenal record from his time, like you said, in World Series of Fighting. And he was a great champion there, a lot of title defenses. But, what can we expect? And I was really surprised that in the ring, in the cage, he was a lot more reserved. He didn't go in there, go for the kill as soon as the bell went. He kind of took his time, and that's pretty easy to say when it was a minute and a half, and only 17 strikes landed, really, or significant strikes. But yeah, I was really surprised, and good for Justin Gaethje. I mean, it'll be interesting to see who they match him up with next. The talk is, potentially Tony Ferguson after the Poirier fight. I don't think he really thinks, in camp, I don't think he thinks about anything else other than camp, which is great to see. And I was a little worried for him because he said after his last loss, he probably had 5 fights left. You're kind of wondering where his head was at. But, overall, really impressed by Justin Gaethje. James Vick has to go back to the drawing board and try and figure out a solution because he's been knocked out by Beneil Dariush and Justin Gaethje in highlight reel fashion. It's interesting for both fighters. A lot of fights to make.
And you know what? He was actually doing really well. James Vick was doing very well. He had a couple of fights in there, a couple of wins. But Justin Gaethje, he really needed a win right now. I mean, he's back into contract negotiations. This is going to be the 4th fight inside of his UFC career here. He really needed to seal the win, especially after coming in, and having that fight against Michael Johnson. After he had the losses after, it was kind of like, that was really a close fight. I mean, is Justin Gaethje really at the level of the UFC? And I remember interviewing Justin years ago, like I mentioned, and there was a huge interest to see him come over. And another guy like Michael Chandler, I mean, you could say that Michael Chandler's on a different level. But look at the success that this guy's having, even though he's losing. Every time he goes in there, everybody knows that he's going to go in and put on an amazing fight, win or lose. And this time, he didn't even need to go into a crazy all-out war. I mean, he literally folded James Vick. I'm playing the clip here on repeat. Hopefully we don't get flagged for it on YouTube. But, he looked phenomenal in that fight. And to fold somebody like James Vick, after what James Vick was saying, it made a lot of people revolt at James. Be like, oh, you're getting cocky. And I was kind of against that. I was like, you got to really believe in yourself when you're going into a fight. People really don't understand that. And I know Justin wasn't going to take it to heart, even though it's really just to promote the fight. I think Justin knew that. Where were you standing when James Vick was like, I'm going to knock this dude out?
I mean, you kind of have to say that going into the fight. It's just like, I'm sure you saw the Bellator 204 when you had James Gallagher take on Ricky Bandejas. And, Gallagher went in there with a head of steam. He was so fired up. I'm going to end him. I'm coming off this long layoff. I'm going to win a title. And then he loses. He's humble afterwards. And I think we saw the same thing from James Vick. So it'll be, like I said, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Vick. And I threw down a comment there if you can see it. I mean, who does Justin Gaethje take on next? You look at the lightweight division and whether you put a lot of stock in the rankings or not, there's some guys that don't have fights. I mean, I'm looking at Kevin Lee, Edson Barboza, and Ali Quinta. I mean, I think those are, possible fights for Justin Gaethje going forward. But I think he's going to want to fight forward, so he's going to want either Barboza or Kevin Lee.
He's going back into his contract negotiations right now as well with the UFC. Ali Abdelaziz is saying, I'd like to get him back in there within 6 months. At least that's what he was hinting in the post-fight interviews that we saw with, John Morgan and crew. But at the same time, I wouldn't mind for Justin Gaethje to kind of take a little bit of rest right now, finish out the end of the year. In 6 months, I mean, where are we going to be? The beginning of 2019? That seems like a reasonable amount of time off here. But at the same time, we need more Justin Gaethje fight. I could see that every weekend. I could literally watch this kid fight every weekend. But with the way that he fights, even though this fight wasn't a war, you got to really reserve the tank, make sure that you're 100% healed. But then at the same time, you look at people like Anthony Lionheart Smith and see the momentum that he's riding right now, riding that wave of wins, knocking out legends like Rashad Evans and just going forward, Shogun Rua. I mean, should Justin Gaethje keep up the momentum, or should he take a break? What do you think here about this, Craig?
100% keep the momentum going. I mean, Anthony Smith, legend killer, if you want to call him that. His record just keeps on improving in the octagon. A lot of people forget about his loss to Thiago Santos, but he's doing really well, taking on Volkan Oezdemir, close to my hometown. He's going to be fighting a couple hours away in Moncton, which was a huge surprise. We got a UFC card coming out, so I'm really looking forward to that one. But I mean, as far as Justin Gaethje is concerned, I want to see him fight again. I mean, that was a quick fight. He hardly took any damage whatsoever. So it'll be great to see him back in. And like I said, I mean, Kevin Lee's looking for a fight. Edson Barboza got bullied by Kevin Lee in his last fight. So, really interesting stuff in that lightweight division.
Well, listen to this, man. Here's the thing. I wouldn't mind seeing him get put on the bench for a little bit unless you're really motivated to get a title shot And it comes into question, like, is Justin Gaethje a championship fighter in the UFC, or is he really just a fighter's fighter in the UFC? Like, is he really just there to put on, like, I would pay for a pay-per-view headlined by Justin Gaethje at this point. I really would. Obviously, I feel like a lot of fans would. But do you see him making it to the championship level, maintaining that? And, I mean, I give it a shot at this point, I guess. But I think a lot of people just really don't even care about him chasing the title. I feel like people just want to see him fight anyone, right?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the top tier of the division, and again, put whatever stock you want into the rankings. I mean, Conor McGregor's ranked number 1. When was the last time he fought? So, I mean, Khabib, Conor, Tony, Poirier, Alvarez, I think those are all fights that Gaethje would lose. Barboza might be close, just because I think Barboza is kind of heading into the twilight of his career. Kevin Lee's one tough guy to fight. I can't see him winning that. I mean, Pettis, he's obviously got the fight against Ferguson. I honestly don't believe he beat Pettis. And then you kind of go down the list, and you're out of the top 10. So I think Justin Gaethje's more of he's a prize fighter, but what's the prize at the end? I think the prize is a fight of the night bonus. And yeah, I think if you have him as the main event, it makes sense.
So listen, what were some other fights on this card that really stood out to you that, you know, you wanted to pay homage to? I mean, obviously Jake Ellenberger retiring, that was kind of a really sad moment, honestly, in my eyes. But what else stood out to you on this card? I mean, there's a lot of people saying that Touchy-Feely got robbed. I gave Philly the second and third. Where were you standing on that fight?
Glad you asked me that, because I know a lot of people would disagree with me on Twitter about the Feely-Johnson fight. And before the fight, I picked Johnson to win. I gave Feely the first round and the second round. And, I mean, if you go on Fight Metric and you just look exclusively at stats, Johnson definitely won all 3 rounds. But I had Feely based on distance management and the takedowns in the second round, so I had him 1 and 2. So I was kind of surprised by that decision, but good for Michael Johnson. I mean, he trains really hard at Hard Knocks 365. He's cornering a lot of fighters. He was at Bellator 204 the other week with Henry Hoof, so good for him. You had mentioned, Jake Ellenberger. That was a shame there. I mean, Brian Barberena, it was kind of, it was a tough one. I think he was like minus 800 or minus. No, he was one of the highest, biggest favorites in that. I think the biggest favorite was Eric Anders, minus 800 to minus 1,000, taking on Tim Williams, who's a guy that I'm sure you're very familiar with, fighting at a CFFC and some of the local circuits, and he actually had 2 fights against Anthony Lionheart-Smith where he got knocked out in both of them. So all 5 losses for Tim Williams now, all by finish. The fight that surprised me the least was the very first fight on the card. You're not going to be excited about it. Nobody's going to be excited about it, but I was excited about it. Ronnie Yahya with the submission victory, and I said, hey, everybody, go watch Yuri Alcantara's fight against Luke Sanders. Luke Sanders is wild. He's a guy that takes too many risks, and he got caught in heel hook. You watch the Ronnie Yahya fight, Ronnie gets him caught, and he's in the knee bar, beats him by knee bar. So that was the most exciting fight of the night for me.
You know what? Ronnie's actually a really he's always supporting the Instagram page. That's a guy that's been around for a while now. But at the same time, for me, Ronnie's been so inconsistent. To take out somebody like Alcantara, who at one point in his career, nobody wanted to fight at all. I mean, I remember when Jimmy took the fight, and I was like, dude, that's a very risky fight right now for you, but he was able to get the win. Alcantara is a really tough customer. This was a really good card. I mean, Jojo Collar would get in the win. What did you guys think about it? Let us know on Twitter at evil_echo. That's EVIL_ECCO. And Craig, what's your Twitter and Instagram for everybody?
It's Craig Allen FNP on Twitter. Don't do the Instagram. I haven't gotten into it yet, but you can also find the company page at Fight Night Picks on Twitter. So hit me up there if you got any questions about MMA. Love talking with fans.
Well, wait, we're not quite done yet. A big part of some of our conversation, especially what you just kind of brought up there, Tony Ferguson versus Showtime Pettis. This is definitely something I really want to brush by with you that you just brought up. That definitely want to backpedal really quick and just discuss that. Of course, that was brought up this week. Announced Showtime Pettis. Everyone's saying, oh, he's back on his grind right now at 155 pounds. He was bouncing back and forth between weight classes. He's trying to find like this new spark, this second wind, I guess you can call it. How do you see this fight going down, especially with Tony Ferguson, who, you know, was the interim champion? I mean, I really feel like he got robbed there. Just this whole interim thing, you know, a lot of people know how I feel about that. Your listeners, you know, you've made your comments on it, but it's frustrating at the end of the day. How do you see this fight going down between these two?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a lot more competitive than most people are saying. Most people figure Tony Ferguson's going to be able to finish it quickly. And I'll be honest, I said it on my show, I'll say it on your show. I think Tony Ferguson's the best lightweight out there. I think if you put him up against Khabib, Conor, anyone, he can win that fight. I mean, against Kevin Lee, there were a couple spots where Kevin Lee, could have capitalized, but where he had a tough weight cut and the staph infection took a toll on Lee. So Ferguson was able to get the win, the interim belt, and then, of course, had that gruesome knee injury. And for somebody to come back at Tony Ferguson's age from a knee injury that was that bad so quickly, and he's 34 years old, so he's back in about 6 months from major knee surgery. You see all the videos on Instagram, on Twitter, of him in a pool with a barbell doing squats, on a skateboard doing squats. I mean, maybe none of it's real, who knows? But Tony Ferguson is a wild man, and he's one of the most dynamic fighters in MMA, not just the division, not just the UFC. I mean, the guy can throw capoeira kicks. He can throw anything he wants. He's an insane guy. So I think it's going to be a great fight. I think Ferguson takes it. But, I think Anthony Pettis is going to give him all he can bargain for. I mean, I think Pettis is returned. I think it's Pettis 2.0, and I think he really showed that in his last fight.
Listen, if Showtime Pettis can beat Tony Ferguson, it will definitely prove to me and a lot of other people out there that maybe he really is back, because Tony Ferguson, where he is right now in this point of his career, I think he's more deserving of a title shot over Khabib. I know there's a lot of people out there that might get mad at me for saying that, but that's a fight I'm really upset was never able to happen, at least before this point. But then again, I mean, I don't even want to see him book it again, because it's just literally cursed at this point. And you got to keep in mind that Khabib Nurmagomedov, the guy's undefeated. Everyone's driving off that. And I don't know. Did you think Tony deserved the shot more than Conor here? Because that's where I was, basing it off of. But with the performances that Khabib had and was able to stay kind of fresh there and get dominant performance wins over Edson Barboza. What he did to Edson Barboza was just, oh, holy shit. Can Conor deal with this? So part 1 of 2. What were your thoughts there? Did you think Khabib deserved it or Tony for the fight with Conor?
I think that neither. For Conor, I think the true title shot should have been Dustin Poirier against Khabib. I think that was the fight to make. I mean, Dustin Poirier, he just keeps grinding. He just keeps winning fights dominantly. He's another one of those guys, just like Tony Ferguson. There's all sorts of different ways that Dustin Poirier can win a fight, sitting at 24-5 with 1-0 contest. I mean, he's beat Eddie Alvarez, Gaethje, Pettis, had the no contest against Alvarez, and he just keeps improving, just keeps winning. So I think it should have been Poirier against Khabib. I understand bringing back Conor McGregor, tossing him in the rankings, giving him a title shot. I mean, you're setting up the end of the year well. I think 228 is a good pay-per-view. 229 and 230 are really good. And even 232, like we talked a little bit today, Nunes and Cyborg. I think that's going to be a good one as well. And then you get 231 from Toronto. So there's a lot of good things happening right now. But, yeah, I think Conor, for him, I think it would have made more sense to have a tune-up fight. Have him fight a guy like Edson, Kevin Lee, I can't tell, one of those guys I mentioned. Get him back in the ring, get rid of some of that ring rust. I mean, you think of when John Jones came back and fought OSP, and it was actually a good fight. I mean, OSP broke his arm, but he just kept going and went to decision. So give Conor somebody before he gets the title shot, but I do understand what they're doing there.
And that's, I brought this up, I forgot, one of my last interviews. We see that a lot in boxing, but we don't see that in MMA, and I would like to see that, especially after 2 years or something like that. You need a warm-up fight. You know what? It was against Atiq Jihad. This guy I interviewed, he got shot 12 times, and he's about to make a comeback right now after 4 years of being out of the game. So, and he was like, yeah, I need my warm-up fight, man. I mean, it has to be done. That much time off. But then again, like, look at freaking the Korean Zombie. The guy was away for 2 years in the army, comes back and knocks out freaking not Bermudez. Yeah, Dennis Bermudez. Knocks out Dennis Bermudez after 2 years being laid off. I mean, what is ring rust to some people? I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. Dominic Cruz beat TJ Dillashaw after being away for 2 years. So it can work for you or against you. But I feel like Conor's weakness is the wrestling. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't know where I'm leading in this fight. I don't know. There's so much time in between that we're going to be able to talk about it. I just feel with the whole interim thing, Tony had the title. He deserved it. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, as far as Conor's concerned, I mean, you're tossing right into the fire. It's scheduled for 5-minute rounds. I mean, and you look at Conor in a longer fight. I mean, I understand boxing isn't a foray, but you look at him against Mayweather, he looked tired near the end. I mean, I know he's rocked, but he was tired. And you look at him in the fight against Diaz. I mean, once it goes past the second round, or midway through the second round, he gets past. So it's going to be tough, especially against a guy with such a mauling offense like Khabib. So I don't know. I mean, as far as this right now, I know we're a ways out, but I've definitely got Khabib in this fight.
Well, we've seen Khabib get rocked by like Daryl Horcher, who was like a nobody pretty much coming up from like Titan FC, I believe, at the time. We've seen him get rocked in a recent fight against Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson's knocked out, Dustin the Diamond, but Conor McGregor's just on a different level. The power that he has in that left hand, it's just something that we've never seen before. At least the mystique of it to this point, and there's no reason for us to ever doubt Conor, because every time he's promised something inside the octagon, he's really paid for it. I mean, you can take away the Nate Diaz fight, but listen, he looked so good at 155 pounds when he fought at MSG. It's right behind me. He fought right at MSG against Eddie Alvarez that night, and I've always wanted to see him return at that weight class because he just looked absolutely phenomenal. The way that he was able to drop Eddie 3 separate times in that fight was just wow. And Eddie Alvarez is kind of the same game style where he's a wrestler. Let's look at when he got brought into the UFC. He was wrestling the shit out of Showtime Pettis so he can get to the title shot. That's what he was saying. He was like, oh, before they even matched up that fight with Conor, he was like, oh, well, I don't understand why guys just don't wrestle him. It's a little harder than that.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally a fair approach. I mean, we've seen Khabib take on strikers, like you had said, when he fought Barboza, and, some of his other wins where he totally dominates people. You look at the fight against Iaquinta. I mean, I know it was short notice, but he outstruck Iaquinta 134 to 41.
I was there.
6 takedowns. Yeah, I mean, that was the perfect fight. I mean, it's kind of tough. You say, oh, well, he's kind of a discounted lightweight champion. But, yeah, I mean, in some of those wins, he outstruck Michael Johnson 94 to 19, outstruck Barboza 89 to 25, outstruck Daryl Horcher 75 to 6. So
how about that?
He's been dominant. He's been dominant since he's been in the UFC. And, yeah, I mean, I don't see him getting that title up easily unless he fought Tony Ferguson, which, I mean, who knows if that fight will ever happen.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on with this interview here. Last 2 topics is going to be 2 female fights that we're going to breeze through. Of course, it was just announced that Amanda Nunes is going to be fighting Chris Cyborg coming up, I believe, at UFC 232. Correct me if I'm wrong there on that date. But finally, it's going to be going down. This is the only fight I want to see for Chris Cyborg next. Maybe even Amanda Nunes, especially that Jermaine Durandamine is out of the picture. Are you excited to see this fight, and how do you see this going? Because honestly, I really think Amanda has a shot to beat Chris. How do you see it?
Really excited to see it. I mean, Chris Cyborg, Strikeforce featherweight champion, Invicta featherweight champion, UFC featherweight champion. I mean, she's only been stopped once, and she only got beat once, and that was early on in her career. So it's going to be really interesting to see her fight. Some more top talent in a bantamweight of Amanda Nunes. And I think the UFC's plan was she'd, hop up to featherweight, almost her natural weight. She'd fight Chris Cyborg for the title. Excuse me, but that didn't happen. So we're going to get a super fight between Nunes and Cyborg. And I had Heather Hardy on the podcast, and she and I talked about whether or not we'd see this fight, and she said yes. And I think the next step, I think Cyborg's going to get the win. I think she's going to remain featherweight champ. And then I think next summer, regardless of status of her UFC contract, I think she's going to fight Cecilia Braekhus in a boxing fight. She's an undisputed multiple division, multiple weight class champ, and I think that's the fight to make.
Heather Hardy, man, I've got to kind of talk to her at the Bellator fight after she lost. She's a pretty cool chick. I mean, she was like an everyday kind of chick. She's just a good person. I don't know really much more to say about that, but honestly, I don't know what Chris Cyborg's route is here. I mean, she's even saying that she doesn't want to stay inside the UFC because of Bellator, maybe give her the world tour. But honestly, UFC, I mean, even with Michael Chandler, like, I wanted to see him come over to UFC. You're always going to want to see what the fighter's going to do on the other side of the field, No one's ever going to be happy.
Yeah, I think the toughest fight for Cyborg right now isn't actually Amanda Nunes. If I was, a matchmaker, and this one won't make a whole lot of sense, but hear me out. I think Amanda Nunes is a great fight, but I think Julia Budd's the best fight for Cyborg. She's been a dominant champ in Bellator and featherweight division. She's built like I don't know what. I mean, she's got one of the best physiques in MMA. She trains so hard. She's she's such a dominant champ. I mean, in her last fight against Toledo Nogueira, she absolutely mauled her. So I think that's the fight to make. I mean, Julia Budd's takedowns are so good. I think that's the one weak spot with Cyborg. We saw it in past fights with Holly Holm. We saw it against Kuniskaya. So I think that Julia Budd and Bellator is the MMA fight to make, but I really hope that boxing fight happens against Breakout.
Julia Budd's only lost to 2 girls. I remember interviewing Julia Budd years ago. She's lost to 2 women. I believe it's Amanda Nunes and Ronda Rousey. So yeah, she's definitely in that picture there of wanting to be, one of the top contenders in this picture. Especially if there's not really many girls at 145 pounds. We're going to see what happens this season on Ultimate Fighter season 28, which reminds me, I guess they're going to be doing it on ESPN again after the season. But the finale is going to be halfway through November. It's like, I feel like that's so close. We just ended a season of The Ultimate Fighter. Here's another one on top of it. It's just like, I don't know. I feel the momentum dying, but I don't know. How do you feel about The Ultimate Fighter here?
I mean, I'm sure James McSweeney could talk about it, greater depth than I can. But I figured they were going to phase it out. With Dana White's Tooth and Egg Contender Series, that's kind of a strange saturation of talent where you have the best of the regional circuits in the state competing for a chance at a contract. So it almost kind of wipes out the whole tough, situation, show, format, whatever. But it seems like people still like the Ultimate Fighter. They still like the drama, and we're going to get to see another season.
People always love the reality shows at the end of the day, and it's opened up a lot of doors. Last but not least, the last topic that we need to talk about, Valentina Shevchenko is going to be going in there against Nico Montano, a girl who was on The Ultimate Fighter, so a really good segue for that. That's why I kind of threw it in there. But Nico Montano, everybody's saying, this girl only was on The Ultimate Fighter. She's not a real champion. She got handed the belt. Guys, do you remember her beating Barb Honchak on the season? Do you remember her beating Lauren Murphy on the season? That's the whole point of having these veterans on that season, to make sure that whoever gets the title shot is going to have to go through some seasoned veterans, and she's done just that. Yeah, it's been a minute. Valentina Shevchenko, you could say, is on another level. I've, talked to Valentina for years. Going back, I've interviewed her quite a few times, her and her sister, going through the Muay Thai circuit here through Connecticut. And I'm not saying I'm rooting against her, but this is mixed martial arts. Are people really out there still counting people out that don't think there's a chance of this girl to win? Did you guys watch the very first UFC where there were no weight classes? Do you guys know who Royce Gracie is? Like, anything can happen in mixed martial arts. But where do you stand on this? Do you think people, have every right to, kind of doubt her? Or how
it's a shame that she's being doubted because, her first her first MMA fight, amateur, was 2013. And since then, she won 5 amateur fights. She won 3 fights on the Ultimate Fighter, and she's 4-2 as a pro. And she's a champ, and everybody discounts her. I know she hasn't fought since the Ultimate Fighter season 26 finale
against Roxy.
2017.
Yeah, against Roxy, who was another seasoned vet, a pioneer in women's mixed martial arts.
Yeah, exactly. So, everybody's going to try and discount it. I think it's going to be a more competitive fight than most people will assume.
That's all I'm saying. Yes.
Yeah, at the same time, you're talking about Valentina Shevchenko, who's an absolute, monster. She's got 4 knockout wins, 7 submissions, 4 decisions, losses to Nunez, both of them decisions, 1 split decision where I had her winning.
Me too.
And she got knocked out by Liz Carmouche in 2010. So, yeah, that's a tough fight for anybody to take, and especially after Valentina's last fight where she just absolutely destroyed Priscilla Cachiera. That was a tough fight to watch, and of course, we don't see Mario Yamasaki around anymore at the UFC due to that fight. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see, but I definitely have Shevchenko in that fight.
Yeah, that's all I'm really saying here is it's going to be a lot more competitive than people think. Look at, oh my God, why am I drawing a blank? The girl who won that season Ultimate Fighter with Ronda Rousey, her and Chris Holdsworth, what the hell is her name? Juliana Pena, right?
Yeah.
Juliana Pena, man, she had a pretty decent fight against Valentina. That's another girl who was on the Ultimate Fighter. You really cannot doubt Nico Montano here. We will get closer to these fights. The girl fights really fire me up the most throughout the year because they always put on, especially Valentina Shevchenko. The way that she goes in there, her combinations, what she did to Holly Holm, I think really put people on another level of really looking at who Valentina is. And a lot of people think that she's the champ, like she's the people's champ in a lot of eyes. But we'll see how she does against Nico here.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that, like you said, it's going to be an ultra competitive fight, and it's one of the ones that I'm really looking forward to. And I think UFC 228 in general, I think they're really good cards.
All right, Craig. So that does it for our little interview here on episode. I believe this is episode number 153 at this point, which is, blows my mind. But thank you so much for joining me here on the beginning of the podcast. Obviously, if you're watching this live on YouTube, this is going to be edited out because of this little clip right here. But later on today, we also have Justin Sumter joining me at 8 o'clock, which is in just about 2.5 hours here. He was just on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. He's coming from Nick Newell's gym, that's where he trains over there at FAA. He'll be here at 8 o'clock. We're going to be doing it live on my Twitter feed for Periscope and also right here on YouTube. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below. But let's get your finishing roll tags here. Craig, where can people find you on social media? And, before you even answer that, what's one interview that people can look up that you've done that you'd recommend? Like, what's your favorite interview you've ever done or best podcast people can look and go back and check out?
Well, it was a recent one. My favorite one had to be my Bellator 204 preview show that we did a couple weeks ago. I had Heather Hardy. I had former two-division champ in Bama, Terry Brazier. He was on. He's one of those really interesting fighters. You're going to want to catch him in his next fight in Bellator. Also had Andy Nesbitt, who is a former host of Fox's The Buzzer on. He's also associated with Bellator, hosts a show Between the Rounds with them. So we did a preview show, and then I had Logan Storley on, who was able to get the win over AJ Matthews quite convincingly. So that was pretty cool to have those guys on. And I really appreciate you having me on the show. You can catch me at Craig Allen FNP, at Fight Night Picks on Twitter. Find a website, fightnightpicks.net. You can find my content on YouTube, Fight Night Picks Podcast, as well as on iTunes and Stitcher. So thanks so much, Eddie, for having me on.
Of course, and I love doing these live streams because it adds like a different element. Like I'll be doing the interviews, and then I'll get people tweeting me in my inbox saying like little funny things that's going on in the background, or like making fun of my dog or something. Like I really enjoy doing the live episodes. So guys, this is something that we're going to be doing more often here, and then we're going to be clipping them together for the iTunes channel. So thank you so much for joining me finally, Craig. And guys, go check out the interview I did on Craig's channel, and his merch is on point, man. I mean, go check out some of his merch. You guys always see me rocking it here on Pure Evil MMA. Man, that shirt was like, it's one of my favorite things to wear to bed, especially because it's like so soft and cottony. I was literally blown away. I was blown away, man. I got some of your stickers, matter of fact, right here, which I thought was really cool as well. Here we go, right here. So guys, go check it out. Fight Night Picks on iTunes as well, so go check it out. Craig, thank you so much. We actually have Kristen Ferea calling me right now, which is crazy. Thank you so much, Craig. Have a great day.
Awesome, man. Thanks.
What is going on, Misfit?
What's up?
So this is actually really surprising. I'm actually live right now on the YouTube channel. I was just talking about Amanda Nunes versus Chris Cyborg. I opened the show talking about bare knuckle boxing, FC2 that went down this week, and the first thing I said was how upset I am that we didn't get to see you fight. What exactly happened here?
Oh my God. Well, okay, so I had an opponent.
Love this.
Then I had another opponent take the fight on 3 days' notice, which I got to give mad props to. For taking that bare knuckle fight on 3 days' notice, but failed to mention that she was on suspension. So she had previously fought 3 or 4 weeks prior, or 3 weeks prior, and wasn't up. Said she had a 15-day suspension, but it was up so she could fight. But she really had a 30-day suspension. So when the commission looked at her after she came in, weighed in, and everything was official, they canceled it. I went to sleep. I always take a nap before my fight. I take a nap, get relaxed, before I head down to the stadium. They woke me up and said, hey, they need to see you downstairs. And I was like, who needs to see me downstairs? They're like, Nate Shook, he's the matchmaker. I was like, okay, I already know what this is about, because the matchmaker wants to see you on fight day about 2 hours before your fight. You're not fighting. So I go down there, and they explain to me that, the situation that I just said. So that's what happened. Super disappointed. I was, everybody sees my training videos, and I'm training my ass off, and I'm like, I was peaked just perfectly, and I didn't get to punch somebody in the face. So I'm super disappointed, but I'm just gonna get on, rest up for a couple days. Let me recover from the training camp I've been in for about 5 months, literally, because I was preparing for a fight prior to this. That got canceled. Then I jumped right into another camp. So I'm just gonna rest up. I'm gonna give myself a week. I'm still gonna do my cardio and stuff, but a break.
Well, don't they have another bare knuckle boxing card coming up with like Chris Lieben on it? Like I believe the end of September here. Would you try to get on that card, or did they make you an offer? Like,
Isn't that WBKF? That's a different one.
oh, that's a different one.
I believe so. I think there's two promotions right now that are out there.
WBKBFC. Yeah, that's probably right.
BKFC.
Yeah, obviously. So.
And I know there's a card coming up in October, and we're negotiating right now. So for what's going to happen for this one.
So obviously you didn't get to fight here. Did you immediately start picking out on food? I mean, did you just like kind of get into like a what the fuck moment, or I mean?
No, we were trying to salvage it for a while. We were trying to get a hold of the boxing commission. We were trying to doing everything. Bobby Gunn was involved. He tried to get the commission. He was trying to salvage the fight for me.
The soccer mom in there.
We were all on it trying to find something, and it's hard to get a hold of the commission. And like 99% impossible or a chance of getting a hold of the commission on a Saturday. So we tried our best. We called everyone. I called all of my connections I had. I called all of Bobby's connections and a couple other guys at the promotion, City Athletics here in Las Vegas was trying to help me out. I mean, we were all trying to salvage this fight, and we just couldn't do it. When I found out, it didn't sink in until I started seeing people fight. Like when I was in the stadium, I was like, okay, I'm not even going to have a drink because what if I'm still fighting? Like I just felt like I was going to fight, and then once I started seeing like the other guys fight, and I was like, oh, I'm not fighting. Like this is not going to happen. So I went and had a couple drinks.
Did you say something to the girl who didn't tell anybody? Like how do you not say that you had a suspension? Like that's number one.
See, I don't know, like the whole. I think she did say she had a suspension, but it was up. I don't know if she knew, but why would she travel all the way here to weigh in? Well, I guess she would just to see if she can get by with it, maybe. You know what I mean? Like, I think she obviously wanted the money or, the fight. As she came down here, she was late for weigh-ins. Obviously, the weigh-ins, I didn't have anybody to weigh in with. It's just been, it's two girls in one fight camp. That something happened. So I don't know, I don't know the whole real story. I know what I was told. I just, you know what I mean? So.
Has this ever happened to you before where like you've gone to a fight and then it just completely went to shit?
No, and that's the thing is like all this shit that's happening to me right now, excuse my language, I'm sorry. All the stuff that's happened to me right now, like I know other fighters have gone through it or it's even been, I think this is the worst it can get, your fight day and it's canceled. But I've seen, I know a lot of fighters, this has happened to a lot of fighters, so this has never happened to me out of 20-something fights, so I'm thinking like, okay, it was bound to happen one day. That's how I'm looking at it. I'm trying to stay positive so I can get ready for my next fight. I got to let go of anything old because I need to start focusing on getting strong, staying sharp, so I can take the belt from Beck. Because I seen her last fight and I was not impressed, man.
Yeah,
She won by split decision by someone she should have knocked out in the first round. So, she's in trouble. And if she ducked me, she's been ducking me since I've been on the scene, and she's not gonna be able to duck me after I knock two people out. Knock this next opponent. I'm gonna knock someone out. She's lucky I'm not getting her this next fight because I'm way better than her. I should have her next fight. Like there's no reason for me not to be in line to fight her this next fight. Like this is a new division for the new combat sport, and I'm gonna take it from her, and I'm gonna run it until someone else comes in that takes it.
It's literally within arm's reach right now, and there's not many girls that people know are fighting in this organization. You got Beck Rawlings, obviously the #1 target, which is why I was so upset when your fight fell through, because I feel like you're like, you're so close, you're right there. They're mentioning you on big podcasts. Like, I heard them talking about you on MMA Roasted. Tanya Evinger was talking about you on MMA Roasted. Like, I immediately messaged you about it. Like, people were promoting your fight. They wanted to see you get in there. So, you know, it was a real letdown. We need to see you get in there and get after this, because it's right there. Like, I could see this going down. Like, you versus Beck is the fight.
It is the fight. Business standpoint, I understand kind of what they're doing. You know what I mean? And that's fine. And I'm willing to, you know, do the hoops I need to jump through and earn my spot. And then I'm gonna take it. You know. And another thing for Tanya Evinger, she mentioned me and called me a brawler, and I think she needs to learn a little bit more about stand-up before she calls me a brawler. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
No, yeah, they were like, Adam Hunter, he was like, yeah, isn't that the girl that beat the shit out of Rachel Ostovich? And Tanya was like, I wouldn't say beat the shit. And Adam was like, I saw that fight. She got pretty beat up there. Tanya just like wasn't having it. I was like, oh, I knew you would enjoy that, though.
Maybe Tanya needs to rewatch that fight, or maybe she's like blinded by the ass and the titty that, you know, I don't know, like every other person is.
Have you ever talked to her before? I mean, she said that you were on the same card as her, or have you ever seen her before, Tanya, before? Like backstage or anything?
I've seen her. Like, I went and partied with her when I got really drunk after my last, I thought we're cool, like, there's no problems between us, but calling me a brawler and then I didn't beat up Rachel Ostovich was like, threw me off. Like, there's no problems between us, like, we're cool. Like, I went and got so drunk I don't remember the night, and I know we were chilling, but I don't know where that came from. I guess Rachel Ostovich must be her friend. Obviously, she's not going to sit there and, you know, say her friend got her butt beat by me. You know.
Well, that must have been pretty cool. Like, I would love to chill with you and Tanya. Like, that sounds like a pretty cool party. Was this like a fight party, a gym party? Like,
well, it was after the Karina, the last Invicta. She was there, and then I seen her at the hotel, and I was getting pretty tipsy there, and we ended up. I don't even know how we ended up out together, to be honest with you. Because after that fight, my hand was broke, and it was hurting so bad. I just kept drinking until I went numb, and then I kind of don't remember the night.
I feel like a lot of people out there would love to see Tanya Evinger get into the bare knuckle scene. Like, I feel like she is like the perfect person to kind of fit in there. And I always say this, people might get mad, but she reminds me of the lady from Monster, the serial killer from that movie Monster, the true story. Eileen Wuornos.
I don't know who that is.
The serial killer. But I would love to see that. So obviously in this organization, what other girls are there that you can really, you know, have your eyes set on? Like, what are the next steps here of moving forward for them, like finding an opponent?
Well, they're bringing in other girls, and they're bringing in. I can't say any names or anything. Like, I just know that they're bringing in some really good boxing girls and some really good girls that are legit. And it's gonna be a stacked division, and there's gonna be some people there that you might not have thought are gonna be there. So it's not like. I'm looking past Beck and everybody's in there now, because that's not even close to the competition that's coming, you know, in a, I don't know how many months or how long, because I know other people are in contracts, so they can't quite come over yet. So I just know that Beck is that's not even close to my worries as in beating me, you know what I mean, or someone that I just know that I have to be in real good shape for Beck. That's about it, and be able to take a punch. But she's not technically sound that I'm worried about. Like, oh, she's gonna out punch me, outwork me. It's not even a question in my mind. But I train for everybody the same. Like, I train like I'm fighting Chris Cyborg. You know what I mean? Like, in my mind, everybody's Chris Cyborg, and I gotta train. But I just know that she's not the one to beat. That's for damn sure.
So listen, before we let you go here, where are you right now? Like, are you on your way home from the event? Like, you had to take the airplane?
I got home. Yeah, I got home yesterday, and I'm actually just went to go pick something up to eat.
I don't blame you.
I'm gonna eat eat for a few days, and then get back in there. I went to the gym earlier and like kind of went to the sauna to sweat out all the alcohol, and I'm back. I'm not drinking anymore until after my next fight. No.
What are people at the gym saying? Because obviously they were looking forward to see your fight, I'm sure. What was the response when you got back home?
Everybody's just really like, what happened? Everybody doesn't understand what happened. I'm glad that I got to call you and talk to you about it, because then I can post this. Just that they don't know what the hell. Like, it doesn't make sense to anybody. You know what I mean? Like, what? Because I posted that it was a athletic commission, like a technicality.
That's all
like
I saw too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just trying to salvage the fight, so I didn't really get into it too much. So yeah, I'll be able to, like, hopefully now I can post this and then people will understand, you know?
That had to be so weird, like sitting there, like in the crowd, knowing that like you're supposed to be fighting, the card hasn't started yet. Like that had to be so like a mental battle you were just going through. Was it kind of exhausting in a way? Like, did that take a lot out of you mentally? Right?
Yeah. And for me, like, I'm the most mentally strong that I've ever been in my whole career. So I'm prepared. I think I like prepared myself for this. So I am like, okay, you know what? Trust the process and move on, because I can't dwell on this. I worked my ass off, but you know what? I'm going to be even better now for my next fight.
You know, it seems like that's been your attitude about it. Like you're just really playing it by ear. You're not really, you're committed to it 100%, but you haven't really seemed sure 100% on it. So it's a good attitude to take, so it doesn't really affect you too much or set you back, because there's still so much more to look forward to. Nothing really happened, but it must have been just mentally exhausting.
You just gotta adjust. If you can't adjust in this game, and if you can't accept like crazy crap to happen, you're in the wrong place. Yeah. Especially being a fighter, you have to be super mentally strong. And I think that's why I haven't reached the heights yet, because I wasn't ready for that yet. You know, I think now I'm ready to be able to take that and move on and, like, dust off my shoulders. Just like in a fight. I get knocked down, it ain't nothing. You get back up and you knock them out. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
100%. Like, I'm so happy that you called in during the live stream for the podcast to kind of clear this up. I was like, so lost. There are a lot of people out there that want to know what happened, and it seems like you got the right attitude here moving forward. So I'm motivated right again. Like I'm ready to see you fight again. So hopefully we'll be able to get that going soon. Thank you so much for calling in. Before you leave here, is there anything else that you want to get out on the table? Tags, sponsors, anything at all? The floor's all yours.
Yeah, I got to thank the fight lawyer in Las Vegas, Mike Clausen, my lawyer, Sin City Vapor, just for supporting me, Fremont 9. And these guys put so much money into me, and I didn't fight. So I just want to say, check them out, check out their site, and support these people, man, because they're giving their all just for me, you know.
Well, for right now, make sure you get your taste buds nice and satisfied, get something nice to eat tonight, and, we'll see you back in there soon. Thank you so much for calling in.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, we'll talk to you soon, Misfit.
Okay.
Wow, that was a real surprise guest right there. Kristen Ferea calling in, Misfit. I mean, there were so many people like, what's going on for BKFC2? Why isn't this girl fighting? We heard her on MMA Roasted, like Tanya Evans, you're talking about her. Like, what happened? Exclusive interview right there, guys, here on Pure Evil MMA Live, just like that. And that's another reason why I really like doing the live shows, because it seems like anything can happen at any point, where it's just like I wasn't expecting her to, like, the last place I left off, I think I texted Misfit this morning, and I was like, hey, if you want to call in at some point today, let people know, 5 minutes, you can even pre-record it if you want, but, you should let people know. And then, she was, or this was actually yesterday morning. She was like, oh, I'm on my flight home, blah, blah, blah. And then today I messaged her again. She was like, yeah, you should just easily call Mercy. Mercy will fill you in, because Mercy was there. So I was going to hang up, and I was going to call Mercy either after the Justin Sumter fight, which is in about 2 hours here, or 5, 6, about an hour and a half. And that's also going to be live right here. He's going to be joining me sitting back here on the couch. But and we'll clip that in here as well, part of the podcast on iTunes, once you guys... if you're listening on iTunes, obviously you're not going to hear this clip, because I edited it out, talking about posting the clip on iTunes, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, Justin Sumter going to be joining me here at 8. That was really awesome of Misfit to call in. Craig Allen calling in to start off the show to talk about what happened this weekend. Justin Sumter, like I said, just on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series with Nick Newell. Both of them going back to Connecticut with an L. So we're going to hear what they had to say about that experience and what's next for the Fort. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Pure Evil MMA. I'm your host, as always, Evil Eddie. And in studio today, once again, we have another Connecticut specialty here. Justin the Fort Sumter joining us here, which you guys might recognize because he's been all over the UFC lately. He's been on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. Week 7, he was on Pure Evil MMA just before that week. And obviously trained alongside Nick Newell for a couple of years now. But I don't even want to start there. We're going to get to that in just a second, and the path, like a different path to the UFC. I mean, there's so much we can talk about here, but I really want to start off talking about something that, like, I was, of course, like, I'm a big fan of YouTube, so like I get sucked down like all these different rabbit holes and shit. And I've always had like an interest in like the dark side of MMA and like not like deaths or anything like that, but like there's been a lot of bullshito, they call it, where it's like fake martial arts with like the death of touch and stuff like that. Have you ever like watched the cringe videos that they have out there? There's a whole bunch of guys out there. That
like I remember first getting onto it because it was I guess it was Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan was talking about like how like these guys, they just like get thousands of people just to buy in, and then they do the demonstration and they're just looking at them real hard and they fall back, and I'm like,
there's been a bunch of people like debunk it too. Did you know that, obviously the movie Bloodsport?
Yeah.
Like,
That's my favorite movie ever. Best movie. Like, I have this incident where I was upstairs in my room, and my roommate, he was like turning the TV and he was just flipping through it real fast, and I heard like the music when he gets the sand thrown in his face, and I'm like, hey, that was Bloodsport. And he was like, what do you mean? Like, turn it back like a couple channels, Bloodsport was on, and so it was on. So that's one of my favorite movies right there.
I remember interviewing Mayhem Miller a couple years ago. He was like, that movie inspired me. But like, I was watching some crazy documentary some dude did, and it was about how Bloodsport is actually based. Did you know it's based on a true story? First off,
yeah, Kumites. Yeah, they used to do Kumites all the time, and you know what I mean. Like, I kind of like that idea of just getting a bunch of people from all over getting them to fight each other. Especially when I was a kid, I was like, man, that's like, well, to me, that's not what I want to do, but that would be cool to do, and
Well, like back in the day, first off, back in the day there was like shoot boxing, right?
Yeah.
Which was kind of like another underground thing, and then people started coming over. But there was a lot of people during that time period that got called out because their past careers weren't actually credentialed. So like, if you go to a gym, how do you know like your instructor is credentialed? Like, how do you actually get down to the root of it? Like, find out the lineage and stuff like that. Like,
well, like, to me, it's not that big. It's kind of what have you done? You know what I mean? That's been my mentality ever since I started. It was like, I'll go to a gym and train with them, and granted they might know things. You know what I mean? Like, everybody knows things, different stuff, but have you actually stepped in the cage, like been punched in the mouth, like punched somebody else in the mouth? So having that experience in the cage kind of, not to say puts you on another level than someone that has like been in like the academy for 10 years or so, but it just kind of gives them an edge, you know what I mean? Because
like knowing they've been in a big organization or been like Abu Dhabi or something crazy like that.
Yeah, that kind of puts a not emphasis on what they teach, but kind of, hey, this guy kind of knows what he's talking about. This guy's been there. He's kind of can relate, and that's ultimately why I went to Nick. I was with another gym before, and I thought they were a great gym. Not to say it was Henzo Gracie. Henzo Gracie is a great
Henzo,
teacher.
he tunes into Pure Evil MMA all the time.
Yeah. Henzo is great, but just the school I was at really wasn't going to get me to the level that I wanted to.
Isn't Nick under Henzo as well?
Well, he's trained with him. He's not under. He's under Jeremy. Jeremy, his last name is really hard to pronounce, so I don't want to slaughter
Jeremy's last name's really hard. It's like the old school commercials where you have to call by payphones, like, Bob, baby, it's a boy. His last name's really hard to announce.
Yeah, but he trains out of he's in Springfield. His home gym's in Springfield, so ever since I kind of hooked up with him, we kind of clicked, and I know he's been there, and he stepped back in the case, so
Was this like your amateur career?
Well, no.
When you were with them? Or?
No, well, my amateur career, I was with Henzo for 3 fights, because before I came up here to Connecticut, I moved up to Connecticut in 2014. I had 10 fights, 10 amateur fights.
You fought like UFC caliber fighters as well. Somebody that Eric Anders, right?
Yeah, I fought
Well,
Eric
this weekend.
Yeah. I mean, hey, good
He's
job.
only
Eric.
lost to one guy ever, which is Leota.
Yeah. I mean, like, he's on my list to fight. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I got to get there first. So you know what I mean? It's still a journey, but that's definitely a guy that I want to run it back. Yeah, I had 10 fights
Yeah,
down
you had a
south,
long amateur career.
Georgia, South Carolina, Florida, Alabama.
Was this fighting like every other weekend?
Well, not every other weekend. It was just, I mean, I tried to fight at least maybe 4 times. I think one year I fought 5 times, but you know, just stay active because I was in school. I wasn't trying to go pro. I wanted to really get experience because I knew this was something I wanted to do. So I really wanted to get experience as well as get my degree. I have a degree in Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering Technology.
Jesus.
So
Safety net, right?
well, I mean, not necessarily a safety net. You know, what I mean, I did the schooling, and you know, it really wasn't that difficult. So I was like, I might as well get it because you know, I'm not gonna be fighting all my life. And so you know, after I get done fighting, I really want to be able to kind of relax and still provide.
You did wrestling in high school
Yeah,
or college?
Wrestling in high school. Was going to do it in college, but they didn't really have a team. And then towards the end of my time there, they kind of got a team. But I just wrestled in college. And then, like, one of my good friends now, he said, I'm going to fight. And I was like, man, you can't fight because he was like a real skinny guy. And I knew a little bit about MMA, but I didn't really know that much. And I saw him fight, and I was like, man, I could do that. And it kind of changed ever since. Started doing jiu-jitsu, won gold in Naga, and then like 2 weeks later they asked me if I wanted to fight in Florida on a week's notice, and I was like, hey, why not? And I beat this guy, and I was like hooked from then.
Hooked for then on.
Yeah.
Obviously, like in high school when you're going through wrestling, like I see a lot of kids. Like I remember in high school I was on the football team, and like the wrestling kids would be like, oh, dude, you don't understand like what we had to go through. And I remember like wrestling in middle school and it being like brutal. Like kids like couldn't hang on. But, like, words of advice for kids that are in high school that just, like, get so hung up on themselves. It's like, there's so much more. Like, that's just, like, a learning block for the future. Like, you learn a lot more in wrestling than I did in classes. Or I learned a lot more in football than I did in classes when it came to, like, life skills and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, like, one thing I think wrestling, it just teaches you discipline. And, you know, not in the sense of, hey, you do this, you do that. But kind of disciplining yourself because, one, you have to make the weight. You know what I mean? The reason you make the weight because you have a team that you have to work with, that you have to train with, and they're counting on you to make this weight and to compete that night. So, you know, having that discipline to kind of know what you want, know what you have to do to get it, kind of is a foundation for life. You know
is it kind of crazy that, like, kids in high school cut weight? Like, is that kind of a crazy thought? It's not much. But...
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I really didn't cut weight because I kind of grew into each weight class that I was in. But I think it's, you know what I mean, they should change it. But it's like that competitiveness, you know what I mean? If somebody wants to win, they're going to be like, hey, you got to win. And so the only way for you to win is to go down and weight, you know?
So you already had, like, a wrestling background. You go into college. Because obviously, like, everyone's parents is like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, even my friends today, it's like, I see a lot of my friends are, like, working, you know, their asses off, like, outside in the asphalt. And it's like, dude, I'm doing, like, what I love to do. Like, yeah, I'm making money on the side, but I get to do what I love to do. And people, like, always try to bash your dream or, like, give up. Like, and I always find myself, like, on stumbling blocks where it's like, oh, are they right? You ever find yourself, like, frustrated with, like, how people view the sport and, like,
like,
the future and, like, actually having a shot? Like, it's frustrating.
Yeah, sometimes it gets frustrating, you know, because you have this idea in your head, and having this idea, you think of all the options, and then you have, like, that nagging thought or that nagging person that comes and says, hey, man, I don't really think this is the right thing for you to do. I don't really think this is going to work.
And it's that one person that always sticks in your head. That Not
well,
the 20 people that
because
you.
Because it's that going against the norm, you know. And I think that's not necessarily ultimately necessary, but I think it's necessary for life, necessary for growth. Because you know, it's kind of your prerogative to take what he says and use it as a motivational tool. Or you can use it as a crutch, and you're like, oh man, maybe he's right. Maybe
it happens to a lot of people too.
Yeah.
Like, they give in to that thought. It's so frustrating to see. Like, I remember even people in my family, like when I was a little kid, them being like, oh, you want to be a pro football player? Do you know how hard that is? Like, it's impossible. But yet, kids my age that same day were inspiring to do the same thing and made it to the NFL and made big dreams. Like, why not me?
Yeah, there was this this phrase. I gotta remember it, but it talked about how people that put in the hard work and like that dedication, and then once they kind of succeed, they say they call them ordinary people. Say, oh man, that's a God-given talent that he has, but they didn't see the cultivating and the hard work before that to get to there.
Starting from nowhere.
Starting from nowhere. So, you know what I mean? You have to really consider yourself. I consider myself to be extraordinary. You know what I mean? And a lot of people are like, oh man, that's cocky. But, to be someone that kind of tries to succeed in every step, I have to think of myself extraordinary. I have to do better than I did yesterday.
Well, there's a difference between cockiness and actually like believing in yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you look at somebody like Conor McGregor, and there's a lot of people out there like, oh, what the hell is he doing? But if you get inside what he's actually doing, like how it's actually a tactic to, one, his fight game, and two, his everyday living to motivate himself to push for more and believe that he can, like, behind you, there's fucking Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
In that fight, Muhammad Ali was like, dude, I have to believe that I am the best in the world to become the best in the world.
Yeah.
Derek Jeter, when he was a little kid, Roger Maris breaking 61 home runs, everyone was against that guy breaking Babe Ruth's record. No one wanted him to break it at all. It was fine with Mickey, but not Roger. Like, it's just crazy, like, to watch how many people out there give up when they go through that hard time. People look at them like, oh, you're cocky, you're this, you're that. It's like, no, I actually believe in myself, and why can't it be me? Like, Derek Jeter over there, I read his biography as a kid, and in the book, like, one of the first couple of chapters, it's like, he walks into his parents' bedroom when he's like 6 years old, and he's like, I'm going to play shortstop for the New York Yankees. But they encouraged him. They're like, you can do that if you believe in it. Yeah. And it's about, like, waking up and, like, training your brain how to, maintain a positive attitude. What do you kind of do to, like, maintain that?
Well, like, it's kind of
hard to hold on to.
Well, it's kind of second nature for me because I really think my parents, my mom and my dad, my mom, my dad, my stepdad, and my stepmom, they're all extremely supportive. And, my parents had this phrase, if it is to be, it's up to me. And granted, like when I was little, I was like, I guess I can say that. But, not until I would say like 2 years ago, it really hit. You know what I mean? If it is to be, it's up to me. So like every step that I take, everything that I do, I have to push it toward my goal or push it towards anything I'm trying to accomplish. Because if I don't do it, no one else is going to do it for me, and I'm not going to get what I want.
But someone else is also next in line to get where you're trying to go. Like, someone else is working for it at the same time. Yeah. The door's going to open at some point.
Yeah, I mean, and, like, a pure example is, my Contender Series fight. I lost. I lost kind of in a bad fashion, but I don't take it as a loss because, one, not that many people have been in that spot.
He's 6-1 going in that fight. I think he's only lost one fight, or is he undefeated? Or?
No, he was 10-1.
And he's a tough guy. Like,
he was the number one guy not signed in the UFC. I'm the number 15 guy not signed in the UFC. So.
I think you're like the number 3 in New England too.
Like, I'm number 3 in New England. Yeah. So I took that loss in stride. Granted, I was a little sad that I lost, but just that opportunity, being able to step up there. Now I know what I have to improve on. I know what I have to do. I kind of take what what's his name? He's fighting Holloway.
Brian Ortega.
Like he kind of relishes in the fact that he might lose. He wants to lose because he knows he can get better, and so he's always training to get better. If he loses, he can get even better. And that's like the first time I lost. It was my first fight, and I did 6 straight wins. 6 straight impressive wins, and so the world is just open right now. I'm just super excited. Not that I lost, but the future is super exciting.
Well, look at someone like Matt Bissett, also a guy from our area, got on the Contender Series, didn't win his fight, but his work ethic, like what he represents for New England, Dana White saw that and gave him a shot. And like his phone actually did end up ringing because he was consistent with it. Look at somebody like Jose Shorty Torres, man. He's
been after it a while, and see him in there and to succeed is really, really cool. Really
cool. Let's talk about Nick. Like, this got to be really frustrating for Nick on his end. How's he feeling with?
Well, what I mean. Like, granted, he was definitely upset the fight didn't go his way, but he's just still pushing. You know what I mean? Like, he wants to get in the UFC, and I think next year is definitely his year to get in the UFC. Like, he's just gonna keep pushing forward. He doesn't really have any quit in him, and it's really cool because I get to train with him, and it's just an awesome experience just to see his work ethic, and ever since being at his gym and seeing how hard he works, he just makes me work even harder.
Like, I remember interviewing Nick a couple of years ago, and they were like making a movie about him. Like the same person that made, like, I think the name of it was like 23 Cloverfield Lane, something like that.
Yeah.
Right? And they were making a movie about him, and I was like, oh my god, this is perfect. Like, if he gets the shot into the UFC, makes this fight, gets into the UFC, that's the Disney ending. But this is almost even more interesting. It's like you went through all the hard times, you were right there, and then it gets taken from you. What do you do now?
Yeah.
And this next part of the story is going to be the best part of it all. This is the climax right here. Like, and then the end of the movie, him opening up inside the octagon. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
Yeah, it's very, very cinematic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just him and his journey.
Even at a young age, like the bowling that he's had to go. Like, it's so inspirational.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean? Like, he's just an inspiration to just about everybody. Because a lot of people, they really get down on themselves because they're like, oh man, I can't do this, I can't do that. He's like, what can I do? What else can I do? That's the kind of mentality he has, and just having that mentality, the world is open. Because if you say what I can't do, I can't do that, I can't do that, then you're not going to do that, definitely,
Yeah, I remember his post when you guys were about to leave, you were at the airport, and you guys flicking off the camera, or Nick was like, fuck Vegas, but we'll be back.
Yeah.
What happened when you guys got back to the gym? What was did you guys have like a group meeting? Like, how did that all go?
Nothing really, like we just, said our, what we feel we could have improved on in the fight, and that was about it. We didn't want to kind of fester on it or kind of think, oh man, I should have did this. But that happens because we're human. We think about that, but it was all just, hey, we're gonna go back to the drawing board and we're gonna get better. That's all really we talked about.
So see, like to me, it's like, why wouldn't Dana? Well, first, before I even say that, it's kind of confusing that he was even on the Contender Series because he has so many fights. Like he doesn't have just like 6 or 7 or 8 fights. He has 17 pro fights or something close to that,
15,
right?
15. Yeah.
Like, you don't see guys on the Contender Series with that many fights. I thought you would get like an actual shot on the prelims. Like, what is it to you? Like, what is it?
Fight Pass. Yeah.
What is it to Dana White to put him on the card?
You know what I mean? Like it's the whole publicity behind it. So you say you get him a shot and something bad happens, and he's like, oh well. All the skeptics that were doubting him anyway, they're gonna like, oh, told you so. But it's I would say it's pure financial reasons. Like because if something happens, then they're like, oh well, that can make our partners look bad, and their partners have a big stake in it, and it's I don't know legitimately why he didn't want him in the UFC, but
I mean, the kid fought Justin Gaethje at one point in his career. Like he's hold titles. He's proved himself.
Yeah.
He has proved himself time after time. So now I just interviewed Joe Giannetti, who's actually just on the Ultimate Fighter this season, and he started calling out Nick Newell. What do you think about that? I thought that was a little weird.
Well, I did see something, but I didn't read it. But I mean, it is what it is. People are gonna call out people.
It's a little hype, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you got the coming off the Ultimate Fighter, and you got Nick losing in the Contender Series, and that's kind of easy fight to make, because you're like, hey, both of these guys were on the UFC and fighting UFC caliber guys, and they can make that fight, but I don't think it's a good fight for Joe.
What was that atmosphere like at the Contender Series? Like, it's kind of awkward because
it was hot.
Was it? Well, yeah, it's in Vegas. You're like in a gym. There's not a crowd. It's like family.
They don't have like air conditioner in there, so it's like really hot in there. But,
yeah,
but it was cool.
Is it awkward though? Like, because there's no crowd. It's kind of like sparring in a gym or something.
Well, it was a little crowd. I mean, I brought like 7 people, and then like
Nick waited out there for you, right?
Yeah, he stayed out there for me. It was. I would say it was a little surreal, you know what I mean? Because you see in like all the TV shows, The Ultimate Fighter, you see him open those doors and walk out.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And
then so you know what I mean, standing back there and them saying, "Hey, 1, 2, 3, go." It's kind of surreal, you walking out there, But I was kind of in a kind of tunnel vision, and I was trying to get prepared for the fight and stuff like that. But
did you rewatch the fight yet?
Yeah, we watched it a couple times, and I mean, I just made a tactical error, and especially at that level, it's like. you make one mistake and that's it's like high risk chess. Like the guy has your king locked up and you make a mistake and it can and it could have ended separately. Like he tried to capitalize and I could have did something else, but. Just at that level, you can't really make mistakes, and I made a mistake, and it happens.
Do you talk to him afterwards?
Oh yeah, I said, hey, good job. It's no hard feelings. It's a sport. We're going there to do business. But definitely, I'll definitely run that back. When I get in the UFC. So yeah.
And as we know, there's you posted something earlier today on your Twitter, that was a quote or something. And it was like, there's all different paths to the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
And especially with the UFC, I mean, it's not that crazy for somebody to make it to the UFC. Like, it's obtainable.
Yeah. It's really obtainable. And, a lot of people, they're like, this was your only shot and you blew it. And, I don't think that. I got there doing what I was doing before, just going in there, winning, and winning in a good fashion, and I was there. So that's what I'm going to keep doing, So hopefully, not fighting anymore this year. I will fight beginning of next year. So hopefully I get a fight in CES and then showcase my skills again.
Oh my God, CES! It's such like a homecoming when you go to those shows. Were you with Nick when recently at one of the last CES shows? I ran into Nick. This was before the Contender Series. Were you?
Yeah. Arslan. I think our boy Arslan was fighting.
Is that the Russian kid?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that the wrestler.
Yeah, well, he has like a short buzz cut, kinda, and black hair, and
he put on a good fight.
Yeah,
that was at CES.
Yeah, right.
With Rebello, right?
Yeah, was it Rebello?
Or Dennis Piva. Dennis Piva versus
Yeah.
Newell.
Yeah. It was that fight. Yeah. So yeah, he's good. He's definitely got better things to come. So. He's a really good asset to the team.
So I had a fighter here. You're the second fighter to be in studio. This is actually all like new furniture.
Okay.
The people tuning in bought all this shit for us.
Oh, nice.
Which is actually like thumbs up, guys. I really appreciate that. But a huge part was the first episode. I had Harris Bonfiglio here, and he was like, he kind of blew me away with a sentence here. I'm gonna repeat it to you. I want you to give me your take on it because. I don't know what to think about it. I've heard it before. I don't really agree with it. Other journalists don't really agree with it. But I think it was crazy that a fighter said it, and it was like, my coach believes this. He was like, people around New England, fighters around New England, they don't fight top-level guys. What do you say to that? Do you think that's true? Where does that stand? Where does that come from? Why do people say that?
Well, like, I would say this. There's a niche for building up fighters. And so, towards the top of the line, I would say you'll fight high-ranked guys or fight high-ranked guys. Towards the bottom, you really want to build a fighter up, build a name up. So everyone, these guys get a couple pro wins, and that's ultimately that's nothing wrong with that. Just about everybody in the UFC did that exact same thing.
A pro fighter's a pro fighter. Like you made it to a pro. You hold something, what I mean? Like,
and it's just you want to get used because you're not going to fight a top guy your first fight. Well, I did, but you're not going to.
Who was your first fight?
Tim Karen.
Okay.
Tim Karen when he was 6-0 or 5-0 in Bellator. Yeah.
Damn.
So I like to get thrown in it with the sharks, and I'm a swimmer, so I might sink a little bit, but I go back up.
Yeah.
But the idea is you want to improve yourself. You want to get better. So you're not going to fight the best guy to get better because if you lose, you don't really know what you need to work on. So if you can fight a guy that's kind of at your level, then you fight a guy at your level, And so you build up that repertoire, that knowledge, and then you can go against a guy that's 14-2, like 10-5 or something like that. So you gradually get better.
I remember interviewing Wale Bamboje when he was in the UFC, and he was getting bombarded with people that just like harassing him, being like, "Oh,
he's my boy." Yeah, I met him.
He's awesome, man.
I met him right before he went to the UFC. Yeah.
He's very inspirational. He's a ball of energy, positive energy.
Yeah.
I love talking to that guy. We text all the time. He's taking a little time away right now, and promises he's going to give me an exclusive interview when he comes back because. He got pretty frustrated with what the media was saying and stuff like that. And one thing that stuck with me that he said to me in the first time I ever interviewed him, he was like, anyone who makes it to the UFC is pretty much a champion. Like for anyone to say that this fighter sucks and they're in a UFC promotion, you're just out of your mind. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's
crazy.
Like people still doubt Conor McGregor. People still doubt Habib. People still doubt GSP. It's crazy.
Well, it's really crazy for people to like have that mentality of they're like, oh man, that guy's not good because you know what I mean. But what's your caliber of good? You know what I mean. What have you done to kind of qualify his skill? You know what I mean. So granted, there's always going to be people that are going to trash and my dad has this phrase. He says, "Don't sweat the small stuff, and everything is small stuff." So you know, when someone says something that doesn't really bother me, they're like, "Oh man, you sucked, and you got put out." I was like, "Oh, well, cool, yeah."
Well, you know what's crazy about the human psyche? I kind of said at the beginning, but they say that every time you get 17 positive remarks, somebody positive says something to you, it takes 17 positive remarks just to remove one negative remark. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah,
like,
and a lot of people, they don't understand that their thoughts...
They hold on to that negative.
Yeah, their
Twitter
thoughts
comments,
are... Yeah. I mean, like, I don't really... Well, I use my Twitter sometimes, but...
They're brutal on there.
Yeah, like, well, I mean, that's what they do, you know what I mean? That's how they get their rise out of... They wake up in the morning like, who am I going to try to piss off today, you know? So,
they love it. They love that shit.
But, shoot, what was I saying? I forgot.
We're talking about people doubting people.
Oh, yeah. So, you know,
Trolls.
your thoughts, like, if you can control your thoughts, you can control your actions, and like, having someone say something bad about you, as long as you don't think it really doesn't matter, you know what I mean? If you think that you're a horrible person or you don't have fight, then
you know the truth.
You know the truth. So don't let somebody else try to sway your opinion.
Do you look on Twitter, like see comments like, "Oh man, you shouldn't have done this," or like, do you ever look on there and see that shit?
I go on Nick's to see what they say because Nick is
Nick has some good comebacks too.
Yeah, he's real funny with the comebacks. So I like going to his, but you know what I mean. I see him every now and then, but you know, it's no sweat off my back.
So one last thing, obviously you said you're probably going to return either CES, or CES at the end, or maybe even LFA. Was that even in the cards?
No, I don't think so. Because I'm still with, I think, because I had the contract before with CES before I went
you were supposed to fight Ron Stallings.
Yeah. I was supposed to fight Ron Stallings, and then
that's right.
They called me up to the UFC, so I'll probably fight him.
That'll be a big fight.
Yeah, I'll probably fight him. Hopefully we can get it at Foxwood so more people can come.
Because he's a UFC veteran.
Yeah, he's a UFC veteran. He just won. So ultimately, he'll probably try to fight one more time and try to fight for their title, their 85-pound title. So
that would be so awesome. Yeah, CES has a lot of awesome things going on. But until that time, you're obviously going to take some time off, relax, still go to the gym or whatnot.
Yeah, still train, yeah.
But Halloween's coming up, man. And obviously my show is Pure Evil MMA. So I can't wait for Halloween. You got anything special lined up? Do you go to Halloween parties? Do you dress up?
Well, like this year, I want to try to dress up because my favorite action hero is Green Lantern. So I've been looking around, but I haven't found like the best Green Lantern costume. Most of them are like kind of.
Do you guys goof around at the gym like during the holidays? And
stuff? Oh, every now and then.
Family?
Yeah, like we what did we do last year? We did something. I forgot, but. Yeah, we just go out to eat and then go out to a Halloween party or something like
West Haven is popping for bars and stuff like that. It used to have like the longest strip in the USA apparently, like a 50-bar strip, something crazy like that. Like West Haven's pretty.
Yeah, well, I don't know exactly because there might still be some, but like when
it's not as crazy as it used to.
Yeah, it wasn't crazy as it used to. My friend Steve Morrell, he just opened up a bar, so we'll probably go check that out. But yeah, you know, just chill, you know, eat some candy.
Do you believe in like the afterlife or like ghosts and stuff?
Oh no, ghosts out.
No, nothing creepy has ever happened to you.
You know, some creepy stuff.
Like what? Like something that you just can't explain.
Well, like there's these so
I love this shit. Yeah.
Like I believe in spirits. So you know, I mean, there's like
energy.
Well, energy does exist, you know what I mean? Energy, you know, travels through us and all that. And I believe that there's evil spirits around us no matter what. And I believe, like a lot of people that...
Or hosts.
A lot of people believe, like, when you die, you can either be a ghost or you go to heaven or all this stuff. And I believe when you're dead, and your soul goes back to... your creator, but
Stardust, yeah.
There are evil spirits that are among us on the earth, so you know that's what I believe ghosts are. So I don't like to call them ghosts; I just call them evil spirits or something like that. But there was this instance where I was sleeping, and you know when you it's called sleep paralysis. So
where you can't move. And
you can't
you
move.
wake up.
You
You're
wake
aware.
up. You're aware. Right. And so one day I was sleeping and I woke up and I couldn't move and I opened my eyes and I look over to the side of the bed and there's this figure. I couldn't see anything except the eyes. The eyes were yellow and I was like, "Get out of here!" And then it left. And then my fiance was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, there's something over there." And then I just went back to sleep.
You're sick, dude. What do you mean you just went back to sleep?
Oh, yeah.
I would have been out of the house.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I don't. Spirits don't really mess with me. Just because I'm not really afraid of it. You know what I mean? Because
how long were you stuck? Like,
it's only about like maybe 15, 20 seconds.
That's a long time, though.
That's a long time. Like, it's a long time. It's definitely a long time to be paralyzed. But yeah, you mean.
Nothing ever again happened after that? Just that one?
Just that one time.
It's like, oh shit, this dude practices BJJ. Like,
He's like, I'm out of here.
He trains at FAA, I'm out.
But yeah, that's I had another instance like that. It was like I was...
Same place?
No, it was back when I was in college. I was sleeping and I was like, you have a dream and then you actually move. You know what I mean? Like, you just...
Like you're falling and
you're falling. Well, like I was like, had a dream that I was reaching out to my brother's hand and then I was like, my hand was out there and I actually felt like something grabbed my hand and then I opened my eyes and there's a figure in there and then I was like, what the... Well, like, see, that was the first time I experienced that, so I was like kind of freaked out.
So this is kind of a recurring thing.
Well, you mean not recurring? It's only happened twice. You know?
That's more than a lot of people have to. Like, one more time and then...
Yeah, it's like something's up.
Yeah, then you got to get to the bottom. But usually, like, when stuff like that happens, it goes back to someone's childhood or something like that. Like, you don't have any memories, like... Because, like, I think that was, like, the most haunting time when I was a kid, because you watch, like, Are You Afraid of the Dark and shit that. Like,
well, like, see, I think like kids are more susceptible to thoughts. So, you know what I mean? Like, you watching a movie like that and then hearing something and then you're like, oh, did I see something? So, I think kids' minds are more susceptible to it. But, you know what I mean?
Dude, I would be so shocked. So I guess that's one of the first stories that we got, because I'm setting up a series of fighters that are going to be coming on sharing ghost stories. So I was kind of shot in the dark to see if you had anything. That might be one of the best stories on the fucking series already, episode 1.
Well,
like, that's great. So before we end today's interview, obviously, I want to thank you for coming into the studio. But where do you stand right now with like family and stuff like that? Like, what are you going to be doing for work? And
well, no, like I'm a project manager for a construction company.
Oh,
so
shit.
so that's what, you know, I mean, all right money. So, you know, I mean, I do that as well as train and fight. So
what do they think at work? Like,
oh, they love it. You know what I mean? They really love it. Like,
they go up to the fights? Or?
Yeah, a couple people. Well, they tried to go up to the one where I was fighting for PFC, but that was the one that got scratched. Yeah, they definitely will. If it's closer, you know what I mean? My last one was in Rhode Island, and they really couldn't make it. So that's why I want Foxwoods, because it's relatively closer, and then I can get a whole bunch of people to go.
It wouldn't be right, and I will get screamed at if I don't ask you. What is your prediction for Conor McGregor versus Khabib Nurmagomedov?
Khabib's just gonna manhandle him.
Yeah, that's
you know what I mean? Like McGregor has a punch. You know what I mean? Definitely has a punch. I believe if he gets him to the ground, like it's all over. You know what I mean? Granted, he might be able to get back up, but like as soon if Khabib finds out a way to take you down, he's going to take you down again, and try to hold you down. You know what I mean? He's just going to try to break your will. So, you know, I see it going one way.
Early or late?
I say, you know what I mean, he's probably going to grind him out and try to finish him in probably the 3rd round.
I can't wait for this fight. Also, did you pay attention to Justin's fight this weekend?
Yeah.
What did you think about that? That was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like, he just set it up perfectly, you know what I mean? Especially with a fighting a taller guy, if you try to touch his punch, he's just going to come over top of it.
Did you see improvements in his style or anything like that?
Not really. I just see him. I just saw him put him into a trap, you know, basically, because he couldn't move back, and he was moving back with his head up, and all he had to do is just make him try to touch one of his punches and then go over top.
Oh my God, this end of the year has been so exciting with a lot of Bellator, UFC. I mean, last MMA question before we let you go here. The Grand Prix is coming up. Bellator is going to be coming here. Matt Mitrione is going to be going up against... who the fuck is Matt fighting? I think Matt's fighting Ryan Bader, and then Chael Sonnen's fighting Fedor.
Yeah.
Who do you have in those two fights? Let's start with the Fedor versus Chael.
I don't know. I'm just hoping to see a good fight out of these two. I just want to see a good fight.
Are you into watching like the legend fights?
Well, you know what I mean. I'm into it, but like I like not exciting, but interesting fight. So you know what I mean. This has the potential to be an interesting fight, or it might just be.
It's just like a nostalgic fight, right?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah. You know, because Chael Sonnen is a good wrestler, and like Fedor is just a good fighter. So you're interested to see what he can do against Chael's wrestling, but I'm kind of skeptic on Chael's abilities now. You know, like does he still have it? Does he still, because
I was surprised he squeezed by the last fight against Vanderlei and then also Rampage Jackson. Like, how'd you beat Rampage? Man? That was just crazy.
Yeah. So I just like seeing good fights, and this has the potential to be a good fight. And that's all I'm hoping for.
What about Matt Mitrione versus Bader? Because that's a really
I think
weird
Bader's.
fight.
I think Bader's gonna win.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think Bader found his thing. You know what I mean? Found his groove. You know what I mean? I think the UFC. I think it kind of got in his head a little bit, and going to a lower promotion. Like I think really he can go back to the UFC and still and dominate. Because I think he just needed to be restarted. You know what I mean?
Matt.
No, Bader. Because his skills were good.
He looks amazing.
Yeah, his skills are good. He's real quick. He's real powerful. But I think he kind of got stagnant, and he wasn't kind of challenging himself in the gym enough. And I think because he got the belt now, he just wants to keep it, and he wants to improve.
And now he can be the heavyweight champ too. Like on top of it, like what?
Yeah. So you know what I mean? Like that's. I think Ryan Bader definitely has this one.
Good job. There's so many exciting fights coming up. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Justin Sumter joining us in studio for the second part of today's podcast, and part 2, or the second episode, I guess, in studio, which is really awesome. I really want to have more people come down here. Anyone from your gym that we should keep our eyes on? I know that you're also training with a couple of...
Yeah, we got Eddie George. Eddie George is fighting in September in New York. We got Nick Quattrock, who's a really good kickboxer. He's going to, I think he's fighting in September as well. So we got a big squad of guys, up and comers that are hungry and ready to succeed. And I mean, like this year was good, but next year's gonna be even better. So I'm super excited for the future for FAA.
Can't wait. Thank you so much. Last but not least, Instagram, Twitter, where can you find you?
Justin the Fort Sumter. You can check me on Facebook or Fort Sumter MMA on Twitter and Instagram. So.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Subscribe down below. We got merch in the link below as well. Follow Justin on Instagram, Twitter, and all that. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, man.